She became great-grandparent of David and part of the lineage of the Messiah. Welcome back to Tenaciously Me. Oh, it is so awesome. I'm sitting outside and it's starting to rain. I don't know what it is about the outdoors that I truly feel that I feel God more now, um, being outside in nature. It seems like it's a really great place to be, really close to God, even more so. And I guess it's just a visual I like to give to you, being outside. It brings back some memories of when sitting on the front porch with my mother and my grandmother, and just listen to some wise women of God talk. So today's message may end up being a part one and part two. Um, got a lot here to share, and so, but before we do, please subscribe, like this video, share with all your female family and friends, leave positive comments that are going to bless all women and anyone who crosses this path, and hit your notification bell, okay? Well, so this great, actually it's great. I don't know if I said that in the beginning. It's great grandparent of David and part of the lineage. The woman that I'm speaking of is Ruth. All right, so Ruth is a very small book in the Bible, and the chapters go from 1 through 4, and that's where you'll find the story of Ruth. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started because I already see that it's possibly going to be a part two. So let's go ahead and get started. The story of Ruth is one of the most compelling in Scripture. Perhaps it is because everyone loves a romance. Don't you agree? And this is a great one. The account takes place during the time of the Judges. So I shared with you 2 Wednesdays ago that the next few chapters are going to be in the book of Judges, or around the story of the Judges, okay? It was a difficult and turbulent, I'm sorry, it was very turbulent, okay, time for the nation of Israel. Yet in the midst of the physical and spiritual famine that took place in the land, we see a story of redemption that points us to our story of redemption. It was during this great famine that Elimelech and Naomi fled Israel with their 2 sons to the pagan nation of Moab. Moab was not a place that Israelites would usually go, but perhaps that just shows us how dire the situation was. After years in Moab, tragedy strikes. Elimelech and his 2 sons all die. This left Naomi and her 2 daughters-in-law, Ruth and Oprah, all alone. Naomi decides to return to her homeland, and 2 women decide to follow her. As they travel, Naomi pleads with the woman to return to their own families. Orpah, I think I incorrectly pronounced it the first time, Orpah heads back, but Ruth will not leave Naomi alone and commits to go with her. Are you listening? If you don't know the story, or those who do, I think I love this story. She's choosing to go with her mother-in-law, okay? When they had returned to Bethlehem, Ruth goes out to glean in the fields of Boaz. As a poor young widow, this was a way for her to provide with food that was left in the fields. It was a practice put into place to care for the less fortunate, and you can find out more about that story in Leviticus. chapter 19, 9 through 10. When Ruth told Naomi that she had gleaned in the field of Boaz, Naomi identified Boaz as a close relative. The word here for close relative is, I started to stop and redo that. Just had a car go by and in the rain. I love it. It sounds great. Enjoy the outdoor sounds with me, okay? Little G-O-D. Little G-O-D. So he was considered a little god. I'm going to go back before I finish on about the story of when she went to glean. It says that Ruth and Orpah went with their mother-in-law, Naomi. They were daughter-in-laws. Sometimes the family doesn't look like the family because the family is according to those who choose to follow God. So she's finding favor, as we're going to read on, because of her choice and decision to follow her because of who she was following. She was following God, okay? Naomi identified Boaz as a close relative. And go back to that. The word here for close relative is little G-O-D. Listen to the train. Which means much more than just a relative. The word implies redemption, deliverance, an avenger, a kinsman, redeemer. This person was meant to point to Jesus, who would be our kinsman redeemer. Naomi told Ruth to do something uncommon in that day. Ruth would be very forward and essentially proposed marriage to Boaz when she identified him as her little G-O-D. Boaz was a man of great character, and he would be the kinsman redeemer. He put everything in order to ensure that he was the one. And there was no other who would step by step be the redeemer, would step up. He would be the one to step up, I should say, to be her redeemer. Sometimes when you're being led by God and you don't quite understand, yeah, you do need to question, am I on path? Am I listening to you, God? Am I on the right track? We do need to do that. When you feel so great and deep within inside, but in your natural, you're sitting there because you're too busy listening to the world and the world system and the way the world does it, you have a tendency to want to question. But I just want to go back to, she followed her mother-in-law, which led her to Boaz, my God, her little God, her redeemer. Are you with me? We learn so much from this story in the book of Ruth. We see that God used ordinary people to fulfill his perfect will. Ruth was a Moabite, okay? She's a Moabite, and a foreign woman who, despite her lineage, put her trust in God of Israel. Boaz was a direct descendant of another woman we have learned of, Rahab. Oh my God, we're talking about Rahab again, the prostitute. As the son of a woman who had lived a sinful life and been redeemed from it, Boaz reminds us of all that God did for Rahab and her line. Boaz, Ruth, would become the great-great-grandparents of David. Okay, let me say this. Oh, wow. And have an important role in the line of the Messiah. Remember, he used the perfectly imperfect, but it was only because of their choosing to pick up their cross and to follow God, to let go of their sin, to get in line with God. Because in those days, and it's still today, it wasn't about color, you know, race. It was about tribes. The right tribe, the tribe lineage of Jesus Christ that leads you to God. Okay? And because they chose to do so, they found favor to be a part of the lineage of the